guys, today I'm here with my top 10 must-have makeup brushes or favorite makeup brushes, travel makeup brushes. If I lost all my makeup brushes, these are the first 10 I would buy. Either way, these are brushes that I absolutely love, recommend. Some of them I have backups of, some of them I will not reach for another brush in place of them. So let's go ahead and get started. The first brush that comes to mind is a brush that I use all the time. I think I have 3 of these. It's incredibly affordable and I think it is just such an amazing brush. It is the e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. It is the foundation brush that I recommend to just about anybody. I think it gives really beautiful coverage. It has that denseness, but it's kind of rounded at the top, and it's just a really great brush. I think it's like $6 American. e.l.f. has sales all the time. I've used, I don't think this is my original one, but the original one is still going strong. I use it all the time. I think it gives really good coverage of a foundation, and it also blends things out really nicely. This is basically the brush that I use in all of my foundation reviews to keep it consistent, and I just cannot recommend it enough. And I am primarily doing complexion brushes in here because I'm more picky about my complexion brushes than I am my eye brushes anyways. These are kind of a little bit more important to me. Eye brushes to me aren't as important. The second brush that I recommend is one of those brushes that I mentioned that I cannot replace. This is the only thing I use to do this particular task, and it's just so good to me. It's so affordable. It is the Real Techniques Setting Brush, and this is a very versatile brush, but primarily I like this to blend out the concealer and blend it into my foundation, and I find it just does it so flawlessly. I'll go in with my finger, pat out the concealer, and then go in and blend this out. This also is nice to set your under eyes with powder or to highlight, so it's definitely versatile, but I use it just for that. I have, I broke one of them because I put my chair on top of it, but I also bought a second backup after I broke the first one. I have 2 of these, and this is one of those brushes that I'm like, when I have to use other things to blend out my concealer, I'm like, why me? But it's so good. The whole line of Real Techniques is incredible, but this is definitely my favorite of the moment. My absolute favorite highlighting brush is from Morphe. It is the R80, I think. It's rubbed off. Every time I mention it, I'm like, I don't know the name. But as always, it will be linked down below, and I just love this. I hate highlighting with anything else. This is another one of my irreplaceable brushes, I think. I don't have a backup of it at the moment, but I just love it. I think it does a really good job with both dense and more loose highlighters. You can dig in there a little bit more with dense because it's got like fluffy along the top, but then it gets more dense in the middle, if that makes sense. And it just does a really good job. I don't like fan brushes. I don't like anything too dense because I like to have the choice to build my highlighter. I don't like when a highlighter goes on too strong, too fast. I like to have the option, and the size of it is just really good. When you buy it, it's a little more tightly packed, and then as you use it, it flares out. I think I've had this brush for about 2 years now. I think I bought it at IMAX Toronto 2016, if that makes sense. That timeline makes sense, but it's the perfect size and I love it. Moving away from affordable brushes, I bought this brush probably 5 years ago, and at the time I was like, Samantha, you're so easily influenced. This is ridiculous. A $50 brush, $60, $70 brush, whatever it was at the time. Ridiculous. I think I bought it when I was in university. I was like, treat myself, like I finished exams or something. But I love this, and again, irreplaceable to me. I do not like to use anything else with a contour powder I don't like to use any other brush for contouring, not for bronzing, not for like a contour bronzy thing, but like full on actual contouring with like a deeper, more cool tone powder. And it is the NARS Ita Ita brush, whatever you want to call it. It's glorious. There's dupes out there, and I'm sure there's good options, but this to me is so good. Keep in mind, it does shed a little bit when you first get it. I was like, excuse me, I emailed like customer service. I'm like, I spent $60 on a brush and it's shedding, but apparently that's what happens. It stops shedding now. I've had it for a very long time, and it's just perfect. It's the perfect size to get in there for the cheekbones, jawline, hairline, and along the nose. It's dense but not too dense. It's just really good, especially when it comes to contouring where things can get muddy and messy very fast. I like how concentrated this is without it actually leaving stripes on my face. And you can just kind of, I like to pat it in to where the contour is. I actually did not contour today, and then kind of blend it out with this brush. And again, it's perfect for the nose. I just like stamp it on the side, and high price item. Don't break the bank and, you know, go spend all your money on this. But if you have a few extra dollars and you don't have very good cheekbones like myself, you're not looking to like inject anything into your face, this is much cheaper than like cheek fillers. that's my justification. That's a pretty good one, right? Whatever helps you sleep at night. But yeah, I just truly love this brush so much and highly recommend it. Something very mysterious has happened because the next brush that I wanted to mention to you, I have 2 of them. And I use them all the time, and they're not here on my makeup desk. So the brush that I wanted to mention is the Real Techniques blush brush, and I don't like it as a blush brush. It's a little bit too dense for me, but it is a nice blush brush. It's very small if you have like a smaller face or if you don't like getting blush everywhere. Part of the Bold Metals collection, and on top of that, it's just absolutely gorgeous. What I like to use it for, however, is setting my under eyes. I love it for that. It's basically one of the only brushes I use for that. That being said, I do kind of have a dupe for it. It's not, I don't like it as much, but it's definitely a great option, and it is, again, a blush brush that I don't love as much for blush. It's the e.l.f. blush brush. Why I don't love it as much is I think they've reshaped it. In comparison to the first blush brush that I ever had from e.l.f., it is a little bit of a different shape, but I do like it because it's tapered and it fits really good under the eyes. And I actually also like this for contouring. The way that it's shaped, it does a good job kind of getting in there and again, not making things muddy. So a very versatile brush. This is, I think, $3. e.l.f. makes great brushes. I have a whole video on e.l.f. brushes, which I will link to down below, along with my favorite brushes, I think, just general brush video. Those will be linked down below. So this is a great alternative to the Real Techniques blush brush if you were looking at that and couldn't find it or whatever it may be. I don't love it as much, but I still think it's a great versatile brush. So I did want to round it up to 10, and I don't have those brushes here. I don't know what happened to them. I'm a little worried, but anyways, this is a great one too. For powder brush, I was a little bit torn because the e.l.f. powder brush has been one of my absolute favorites for a very long time, but more recently I have been using this one from Royal & Langnickel, part of their Moda Metals line, I think it is. And again, this is a blush brush. Don't feel confined by what a brush tells you it's supposed to do, you know, like do whatever the hell you want to do with your brush. Even before, I've seen people comment on like my Instagram posts like, use your fingers for your concealer, and I'm like, do whatever the hell you want with your face. I don't care. But I love this as, this is far too big to be a blush brush for my face and the way I do my makeup. But what I like about it is it has a little bit of denseness, so you're able to build up the coverage of a powder if you're putting it on your face. Say, for example, you're setting a liquid foundation with a powder foundation and you don't want a ton of powder foundation on your face, but you also don't want something too fluffy. So I feel like this has a really good balance of dense versus fluffiness, and it just does a great job. The e.l.f. brush that I mentioned is super dense, great for like buffing powder foundation onto your face, along with the the Real Techniques buffing brush. It's impossible for me to do a list of 10 and not give you like a bunch of other alternatives during, but this is the one I have been using for, again, I bought this at IMATS. I think that's when I buy the majority of my brushes, but I bought this at IMATS I think a year ago, and I've really been liking it. And I believe Royal & Langnickel is sold at Walmart in the United States. I'm not sure where else it's sold online, but I know at IMATS this was a really good deal, and I've really been enjoying it. Back to giving you options for blush brush. I was going to recommend the Up and Up blush brush. That's one of my favorites. I've had it for years, but looking at the Target website, I didn't see it there. Target doesn't exist in Canada anymore, and I don't know if it's redirecting me to a Canadian website where you can't find that, but either way, I do love that brush, but I don't know if it exists anymore. Then I also wanted to recommend this to you. It is the Jessup powder slash blush brush, and I really like this because of its size. I really don't like a blush brush that's too big, but I also don't want something that's too small. That being said, this is a set, this is a part of a set on eBay, quite affordable. I reviewed it years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, so the brush is still holding up, and I do like a lot of the other brushes from that line, but I didn't want to recommend a whole set to you, so that's good. But I'm going to recommend a third brush to you, a 3-in-1, because this is a singular brush that you can purchase, and this is the Morphe E53, and again, it's just a great brush. It's tapered, it's the right size, a little bit bigger perhaps than the other ones that I prefer, but not too big, and you can kind of go in and pat on the sides or blend it out. I think it also would do a good job for some concentrated bronzing, and I have been really liking this. This is probably one of the newer brushes of all the brushes that I'm mentioning, but I have been reaching for it, which says something because I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to my blush brushes as well. I'm only mentioning one eye brush in this video because it's kind of a brush that, again, I continue to reach for. I don't have another brush like it, although I don't know that it's incredibly unique, but it's the one in my collection that I continue to reach for that I absolutely love, and it is the Sigma E53, E45. close, E45 Small Tapered Blending. And for a long time, I didn't really put much on my lower lash line, or I would use like a brush that you would use to pack on eyeshadow, and I never really liked the look. And I could never really figure out how to balance my eye looks properly because I don't like the look of just eyeshadow on top with nothing on bottom. I don't think it looks balanced on my face. I like to at least put a little something there, even if it's a bronzer. So I always reach for this one. Whenever I'm doing that, it's this one that I'm reaching for. It's really, really small. It's also good if you have like smaller eyes. Like I'll get in here too because I don't have a ton of lid space. By the way, anybody who has a lot of lid space, I'm so jealous of your life. But I really love this, especially on the lower lash line. It's also great on the inner corner. And like I said, it's not like, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe there's no other brushes out there like it. It's pretty much the only one that I really love for this. And again, I've had this for years and years and years, and it's holding up incredibly well. Moving on to bronzing, there's a Sephora collection brush that I absolutely love, but it's a part of a holiday collection from 2 years ago, and I really did like that, but it is really, really dense, so I couldn't use it with every bronzer that I had. So I've recently started using a bronzer brush that I can basically use with dense bronzers, loose bronzers, whatever it may be, and I love it so much. It is the MAC 14-0S or 140S, whatever it is. It's kind of this odd fan shape, but for whatever reason, it's just really good at getting up here, getting here, getting here. And again, it's kind of dense, but also kind of fluffy. It's just that perfect balance because I don't want it to pick up too much product in something like my Lorac or my Becca bronzers that are quite soft. I don't want it to pick up too much product, but then I also have something like my Makeup Forever bronzers that are really dense, that kind of like gelée texture that's really packed in there. So what I like about this is that it just works with everything, and the shape of it is really great too because you're able to kind of sculpt the face, warm it. I can even put it on the sides of my nose, on my chin, but it has the perfect shape and perfect density to really get in there, so I find it really versatile. I think it actually is supposed to be a powder brush. I can't remember exactly what they market this for, but again, don't let anybody tell you what to do. And lastly, I want to mention a brush from Inglot. This is their 4SS. I also love their 6SS, but this is one of the only other highlight brushes that I will reach for. If it's something that is super dense, it's good because it's got kind of a dense brush. It picks up a lot of product, and it is a really nice size just for getting right there. I also love it for nose contour, as high maintenance as that is. And then you can also kind of get in there and do an eye, like if you really want to like fluff things along the crease, or you can also use it to set your under eye or blend out concealer, or even like blend out, like if you're highlighting along here, it's really nice for like a matte concealery highlight to blend it out here. So I mentioned this because again, I actually purchased, I don't think I repurchased this, did I? Do I have two of these? Maybe I have two of the 4SS. Not the 4SS, 6SS. Either way, this and the 6SS are really, really good. The 6 is just slightly smaller. Again, really good for all of the items that I mentioned. Really good for targeted work. And in my opinion, it is unique, similar to some of the other small tapered brushes that are out there. But in my opinion, the density of this is really nice, and it definitely is one of the more pricier brushes that I own in comparison to the MAC and the NARS, but I just thought the quality on this was great, and I really enjoyed a lot of Inglot brushes, but this one is definitely my favorite. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and that gave you some good insight into some of my absolute favorite brushes. Let me know down below what some of your must-haves are, or if any of my must-haves are your must-haves. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll not using Snapchat anymore. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. It is so hard to switch the ending. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!